Hello everyone, Giltard here with a video on the topic of the, I guess, great or significant disconnect between the perspective of the dedicated collector or essentially fan of a particular product line, brand, franchise, whatever, uh, and the perspective of the producer, the owner of that same product line, product, brand, franchise, whatever. And the reason why I'm bringing up this topic for discussion is that as of late, I've been engaging in and sort of observing a lot of, I guess, fan reaction to certain things in two industries that I, greatly enjoy: Gundam and Transformers. Um, And it's not something new. It seems like every time something is done, there's always going to be some sort of criticism, productive and otherwise. There's also ongoing griping that happens in fandom at large, especially through online mediums like forums, discussion forums. And I'll just like quickly list off the three basic things that I've seen that sparked my, yeah, I guess, motivation for making this kind of discussion video. So the first thing is reaction to the upcoming or the next Gundam media and toy line effort. I can't remember the entire name; it's fairly long, but basically, it's a building-oriented, branch of fiction and products that focus on characters of, kids, of youths, teenagers, or I think that's the range. And basically, they buy Gundam model kits, customize them, and then bring them to a public competition of some sort. I don't know if there's a league or something like that. I haven't really gone into the details of that, but it seems to be either a sequel to, an expansion, or a elaboration or extension of, or at the very least a spiritual successor of the Gunpla Builders miniseries that came out like last year or something along those lines, around that point. Another thing I've observed is reactions to the recently announced upsized or upscaled Cyberverse toys in Transformers up to Deluxe and Voyager class toys, where they're given some minor retooling, but basically they're upsized, simpler Cyberverse toys. And then the third thing is just general reaction to the recently announced ConstructBots line of Transformers toys. In all three cases that I'm mentioning here, the vocal minority, the sort of die-hard, zealous fans of Gundam and Transformers, have given some harsh and very sort of narrow-viewed or one-sided criticism of these, I guess, brand expansion expression efforts by Bandai and Hasbro and Takara Tomy. And it just really became keen in my mind that it seems like more and more than ever, despite the ever increasing amount of knowledge and information available to us fans as to the history of these brands and the reasonings behind previous business strategies, as well as access to, at least in Hasbro's case, where their representatives have come into the public to make official statements and share at least the logic and philosophies behind these brands, of why they do what they do. To me, it's very interesting that even at this point where knowledge and information is becoming more and more accessible and available, certain people are still seemingly willfully ignorant of certain points that they argue against and ignore at times. And the big shame in that is allegedly these outspoken people, like any other fans, are people who've come to this fandom out of a great adoration and great love for these things, and yet they can only really express their distaste, their dislike, and often in fairly hyperbolic and you know ineffective, unconstructive, unhelpful ways. And hardly ever do they focus on what they do like. And they will mention certain things they do like, but not to the same degree of elaboration that they'll take for listing what they don't like. And ultimately, it's something that harms them, unfortunately. Because here's the thing. what we do as fans in the community globally is that we partake in a luxury hobby and a luxury pastime. This is something we do because, generally speaking, we can afford to do it. These are not necessities. We do not need them to live our lives. But they do help enrich our lives. They help increase and enhance the quality of life that we have. And I myself, personally, I'm very appreciative and grateful for being able to take part in such a luxury as, an adult buying products, toys, in fact, that are not meant for me, generally speaking. Um, it is a case where certain outspoken fans have taken on and developed a sort of self-centered, in a way, me-centric perspective where they will ignore business logic and discard any semblance of business acumen in raging and ranting against what they don't like. It's not even what they necessarily even agree with. They might not say it outright, but what it comes down to is like they're essentially saying, I don't like this. I don't like the direction this thing is going in. Therefore, I'm going to actually say this is an unwise or a stupid choice for these companies to make. They're not going to make money. They're alienating customers. This, that, and other thing. And they'll introduce basically information that essentially comes from themselves. They'll say certain things like kids or certain parts of the demographic only like this or do not like that without being able to qualify that statement. They're making wild assumptions and self-perceived, self-constructed notions and presenting them as almost like as statistical fact, as if there's an overwhelming consensus that is, been recorded that, for example, kids only like certain types of toys, and that simply is not the case. There has never been any instance that I've come across in the last 6 years of my fandom of Transformers, for example, as an adult, where I've been able to find a person who actually says, you know, uh, with confidence, with factual data, that a certain part of the market demographic will not like this, that, or the other thing because of these reasons. They always say certain things like, and they'll try to qualify it by saying, well, I have kids or I have nieces and nephews that don't like this and like that, and that's fine. But the thing is, there are exceptions because, frankly, for every time you mention something like that, I'm certain that another person can say, well, I have children or I have nieces and nephews that actually like it this way. They like these, Transformers toys because of this, that, or the other thing. So to use personal experience or anecdotal information to support something that is essentially an opinion or a self sort of constructed view it really hurts a person's, I guess, effort more than help or support it. And really, I don't even know where it comes from. But getting back on the topic, getting more focused on that, it is really interesting how great of a degree of distance and dissociation and that a a diehard fan perspective has compared to a business perspective. And then the funny thing is that these diehard fans express, I guess, or infer that they somehow, because they have such alleged care for this brand or whatever they're a fan of, that they think whatever they suggest is the best for the brand, to the exclusion of what the actual business owners think and what the business owners have learned through their decades of experience of operating in the global market. I find that interesting as well. It's a very delusional perspective, and ultimately it's a very sad thing. Not because I think it's delusional, but rather because I think these people are ultimately harming themselves, rather than being able to incorporate their fandom as a productive, positive, as an additive aspect of their life to enhance the quality of their life. They've turned around and cultivated instead harmful, destructive, reductive, and just an overall negative deficit. Out of this hobby that should be positive, they made it a deficit upon their quality of life. Because they spend quite a bit of effort and time, and I imagine they must stress over getting into arguments and flame wars and such over forums, over defending their view. They essentially are just hurting themselves, and it's a really sad thing. I don't want to see this happen because, frankly, I've gained so much enjoyment out of my fandom of being a fan and collector of Transformers and other toys, other action figures, of other media, of other things like model kits, and just being able to share my enjoyment with others over mediums like discussion forums, over YouTube, everything else. And it's just been such a great positive, aspect of my life that I've been able to add to and incorporate into my lifestyle. I don't want anyone else to have a bad experience because I know how good it can be to have a positive effect from this kind of interest, something to have such enthusiasm over. So yeah, that's my perspective on it. As usual, please take part in discussion. As always, it's always very welcome that people respond in text comments, in video responses. As I always say, please keep your interaction, your engagement relevant to the discussion. Keep it focused and respectful. And let's get this discussion going because I think it's relevant to anybody who's into hobbies of all kinds. So as usual, thank you very much for watching. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you at the next video.